Welcome to Unity in Under 5. We're going to show you some great scripts that you can write for Unity in less than 5 minutes. Today we are going to talk about building an event system for your Unity game. This is going to allow you to do all kinds of different things, including having an unlimited amount of separate Unity events within one system, and within each of those events you can have as many different functions as you want to happen at a single time as well. We are going to start by creating a new C# script. We're going to call it Unity Event System. Once you have that, go ahead and open up into your script editor. Now the very first thing you're going to want to do before we even start building the script is make sure you go to the very top, and we need to add in that we're going to be using Unity events. If you don't put that in there, then you won't be able to invoke Unity events. So let's go ahead and get rid of our start and our update functions. We don't need those because this is going to be a system that is called through other functions, whether it's a button, whether it's a collision or a trigger. You're going to be calling this in other ways, so we don't need a start or an update function. The first thing that we need is to set up a serializable system so that we can get each individual event to be separate so that it doesn't kind of collide with each other and cause a lot of scripting errors. So we're going to start with a system serializable. Underneath our system serializable, we need a public class for something called a Unity event wrapper that's going to let us wrap those events up tight and make them individual. So we're going to call this, we're going to go public class Unity event wrapper. We need brackets, and then we need to put in our function here, and this is where our first Unity event is going to come from. So we're going to put in a public Unity event in our wrapper. So we're going to have this one single Unity event per wrapper, and that wrapper is going to allow us to make more than one and just continue over and over and over again, as many as you need, so that you can keep building out the event system without having to make separate game objects, separate scripts. So now that we've made this, we need to go down and create a new function below. And this one is going to be where our event wrapper really gets a little bit more robust. So we're going to make an event wrapper function, and we're going to have these brackets after it, and we're going to make Unity events. So what we're doing is we're allowing it to kind of replicate those Unity events over and over and over again without having to do it yourself through code. So we're making an array of any Unity event wrapper objects. We also want to put in here a way to invoke everything if you want. So what we're going to do is create a public void that's going to invoke everything. So we're going to do public void invoke all, and then we need brackets because we need to tell it what do we want it to do. This is where it's a little bit complicated, but we'll kind of look at it. We're going to put in this for each, and then we're going to say Unity event wrapper, event wrapper in Unity events. And then for this function, we want to invoke those Unity events. So what we're going to do is put in a Unity event wrapper.Unity event.invoke. So we're going to invoke that specific Unity event within the event wrapper. So it's kind of like we have inside of this wrapper, we have each individual Unity event so that we can just type in which event you want to invoke using the inspector. The final thing that we need to add in here to make sure it does what we want to do is to make a function that's going to trigger that Unity event at each index. So each index is the number. It's going to be start at 0 and go all the way up to as far as you need. So you need to be able to put in a system so that you can say, when this happens, invoke event number 2. So we're going to have a public void trigger Unity event, and we're going to have that int index that allows you to do that. And then we're going to set the index to start at 0. So now you're going to have if the index is greater than or equal to 0 and the index is less than the Unity events.length, then we're going to invoke it. So it's going to allow us to invoke what we put in the inspector. And believe it or not, this is done and ready to go. So let's go see what it looks like in Unity. Okay, so now that we're in Unity, we want to use this event system. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to event system, and we're going to drag our Unity event system component, and we're going to put it into an empty game object. So now you can see we have Unity events up here. There's none because we haven't added any. And here's our list, and we can add Unity events. So what we're going to do is add 2 events here, an effect and an effect 2. 2 different effects that this button will invoke. So over here on the right-hand side, we're going to click plus. This is our first Unity event. And notice how you can add in your function. And you can add as many functions as you want and delete as many functions as you want. So the first thing we're going to do is add this correct answer effect, game object, set active bool true. And then we're going to add another event. So I click the plus button on the bottom. This is the second event. So for this one, we're going to replace. We're going to also do set active bool and true. Now we need to go into our button. We're going to click on plus. We're going to drag the Unity event system into here. We're going to go to Unity event system. And at the very bottom, there's Unity event trigger int. When you click that, it gives you a place to enter text. So button number 1, we want that to be event 0. And then we're going to do the same thing with button number 2. And remember, this was element number 1. When we click the start button, when we click on effect number 1, there it is down there. And when we click on effect number 2, we can see effect number 2. So that is how the system works. You can have as many events as you want. All you need is this single event system game object, and you can create the entire system of events for your scene, no matter how many events or functions within those events that you have.